So what is the guitar theory trap? Well, I need to take you back to where this came from and why do we call it the guitar theory trap? In fact, I call it the great guitar theory trap. Most guitar players, after they, play for the very first time, after we are absolute beginners, and we pick up our very first chords or our very first little bits and pieces of songs or melodies or something like that. Here's what happens. Here's what happens to almost every guitar player on the planet. You go out there, you try to learn some stuff, and maybe you learn a few chords, a few open chords, D chord, G chord. Maybe you struggle with the chords, or maybe not. Maybe you move a little past that, right? Nowadays, we have so much information out there in the form of books, courses, and YouTube videos and apps and all kind of stuff. And the reason why I call this a trap is because it seems logical, it's counterintuitive, but most guitar players that go out there and they think they need to keep learning more stuff in order to progress. Now, that sounds logical, right? Like, yeah, you have to learn in order to be able to get better, and that's true to an extent. But after you go out there and you learn a few chords, maybe you learn a few bits and pieces of songs, maybe you learn a few, chord progressions or something, or even a whole song, right? But somewhere in there, guitar players start to get stuck. And they start to get stuck because their fingers won't cooperate, their fingers won't do what their brain tells them to do, or they can't keep up with the chord changes, or they do something like learn theory concepts or learn a scale or something like that. They don't know what to do with it. They can't apply it. You can think about it, right? But they don't know what to do with it on the fretboard. Like if somebody shows them a scale, for example, they're like, okay, well, I understand how to play the notes. Now what? I just don't know what to do with it to make music with it. And what happens is they think that in order to get better, they need to go out there and keep learning. Well, I just need to learn more stuff that's going to fill in these gaps. I just need to learn more stuff that's finally going to let me play. And they think that if they just keep learning, if they just keep practicing, then one day it's eventually all just going to come together and everything's going to connect and they'll be able to play freely the way they want to on the guitar. But that's not how it works. That's why I call this the great guitar theory trap, because almost every guitar player on the planet falls into this trap of thinking that you need to keep learning more and more and more and more in order to finally play freely. But here's the thing. The more stuff that you learn on the guitar, the more concepts, the more scales, the more things like circle of fifths or the cage system or even chords or seventh chords or ninth chords or all that stuff, the more stuff that you learn, the more stuff there is in your brain and the more you have to think when you're trying to play. For example, if I learn I don't know, A major nine chord. Well, first of all, what the heck is A major nine? Then I have to think, okay, where's my A? And then where's this? And what is nine? And how do I do it? And then just make sure I strum the right strings. And then if you think about all that stuff when you're trying to play, first of all, you're not making any music. It's frustrating. You're not having fun with it. It's really boring. And then if you're trying to play with other people or with a song, there's no way that you can keep up. There's no way you can keep up with chord changes. There's no way you can jam with other people because you're always having to think about it. The funny thing is, if you ever watch any pros on any stage or any concert, they're never thinking about anything when they play. They're not thinking at all. They're just playing whatever they feel, right? So if you look up interviews and you look up quotes and you look up things like that about pros, they'll always say a general theme, and that is the only way to play freely is when you're not thinking. So again, I call it the great guitar theory trap because most players think that they need to keep going out there and learning more and practicing more and learning more stuff that's hopefully going to fill in these gaps that they, for some reason can't connect the fretboard together, or so they think. But the problem is all that stuff makes them think. And the only way to play freely, like the pros say, is when you're not thinking. So the question is, well, how do you play freely, and not think and still know what you're doing on the neck? There's essentially a grid on your guitar neck. That's kind of like if you look at a football field, an American football field. A football field always has grid lines. So it has like 10-yard line, the 20-yard line, the 30-yard line, 50-yard line, whatever. And with any American football game, just like any sport, but on American football, you can go to a different stadium. You can change the teams. You can change the colors. You can change the weather. You can change anything about the game. But the only thing that never changes about football is that the grid on the field is always the same. And if you've ever seen a guitar player playing on the guitar neck and moving all around and not looking at it, or they're just, playing whatever they feel, what they're actually doing is playing the right notes that exist on a grid on the guitar neck. And that grid is always the same, just like football. It's always the same for any song that we would ever play. The only difference is for any key, which just means the pitch of the song is higher or lower, the grid shifts up or down, and that's it. So when you learn what the grid is and where the right notes are on the grid, you literally can know how to play every single right note on your entire guitar neck for the rest of your life without having to think about it. And that's how the pros make it look so easy.
When I'm playing, I rarely look down. I kind of just know what fret I'm on, or have an idea of what fret I'm on, especially when I can hear the sound. And then I know, okay, if I need to go to the next note, I kind of have an idea based off of the frets. So that's basically what the guitar grid is.
Yeah, more or less. I mean, like I said, a grid is a location device. It tells you where things are in space. So if we have a grid, your guitar neck already makes a grid because we have strings which run this way and we have frets which run this way. So you're already making a grid on your guitar neck. I call it the guitar grid. Like I said, it just so happens that notice how I don't have any dots on this guitar neck? Well, most players get stuck looking at the dots and thinking about, well, I need to go to the ninth fret or I need to go to the third dot or something like that. Ironically, you don't need to think or see any of the dots on the guitar neck. You actually need to have the grid that's in your mind of where the right notes are. And like I said, the grid is the same across the entire guitar neck for any key. Once you learn it one time, you automatically know where all the right notes are, and you can play all the right notes without having to think about it. But the thing is, it exists independently of the dots that are on your guitar neck. I don't have any dots on my guitar neck because I don't need them. I don't look at it. I don't need to look at it. I just think about the grid. Where am I on this grid? Where are the right notes? And that's all I'm using. In fact, I said think, but again, the pros don't think when they play. They're just hearing. They're just feeling. They're just playing the feeling that they want to express. And once you know the grid, you know where that feeling is on the guitar neck.
Yeah.
So anyway, the overall question, by the way, was, what is the great guitar theory trap? Well, I explained why players fall into the trap. What is it? It's the trap of thinking that you need to keep learning scales and theory and concepts and all that kind of stuff, but it gets you into the trap of thinking. But the only way to play freely is by not thinking. And the way to play freely and know what you're doing is use the guitar grid, which tells you where all the right notes are for any key without having to think about it.
Hey, thanks so much for watching that video. That was just a short clip of one of our longer Q&A videos. If you're interested in watching some more of those videos, then I recommend you hit the subscribe button over here. It's really awesome. Also, we got more videos over here, so check some out if you're interested in learning more about breakthrough guitar or advancing your guitar skills.